Welcome to Meet the Press Now. I'm Kristen Welker in Washington, where we're closing in on the 100-day mark of the Trump presidency, with new polling showing Americans have grown dissatisfied with the president's economic agenda, as the threat of market turmoil and economic uncertainty risks overshadowing the administration's other priorities. Brand new numbers from our NBC News Stay Tuned poll show the president 20 points underwater on the issue that was core to his election success, inflation and the cost of living, with 60% of Americans disapproving of his handling of that issue. That published dissatisfaction, coupled with worries from big business and the markets, appear to be weighing on the White House, as it has signaled a de-escalation with China, with the president softening his tone on the sky-high 145% tariff he placed on Chinese imports, and saying the Fed Chair Jerome Powell's job is safe. In the Oval Office today, meeting with Norway's Prime Minister, President Trump made some ambiguous remarks on the process of potential trade deals and attacked his predecessor.
We just have a great country. We have a very strong country, and we have every other country. I can't think of one country that doesn't want to negotiate a deal. And they either negotiate a deal or we set a deal that we think is fair. We are going to, at some point, just set prices for deals. Some will be tariffed. Some treated us very unfairly. They'll be tariffed higher than others. But we've been ripped off for many, many years. The United States has been ripped off like no country probably in the history of the world. I don't blame those countries. I blame the people that sat at that beautiful desk right behind you, because those people didn't do the job for this country.
The numbers from our newest poll come amid other warning signs for the administration and other recent polls. Surveys from Fox News and Pew show President Trump's job approval dropping 5 to 7 points, down to 44% and 40% respectively. The Fox poll, which the president tried to discredit today, also has him underwater on virtually every major issue, including taxes, tariffs, and inflation. Meanwhile, we're seeing a familiar playbook from the White House, focusing on issues that fire up the base, particularly on border security. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt confirmed the president will hold his first rally since taking office in Michigan Tuesday to mark his 100th day. The president today also ramping his feud with higher education, calling Harvard University anti-Semitic and a threat to democracy. And later this hour, we expect the president to announce an effort to target the Democratic fundraising platform Act Blue. Joining me now with the very latest from the White House is NBC News Chief White House Correspondent Peter Alexander. And with me right here on set to break down what we're seeing from our NBC News Stay Tuned poll is NBC News national political reporter Ben Kamisar. Peter, I want to start with you at the White House. Of course, we did hear from President Trump today in the Oval Office. What is the very latest he's saying about tariffs and the state of the overall economy?
Well, we'll detail the situation with China in a moment, but specifically as it relates to tariffs and the impact in the economy, the White House has been witnessing some headwinds lately. Take home sales, the slowest growth of home sales since 2009. Look at the ships, cargo ships coming from China to the ports on the West Coast, L.A. and Long Beach. New figures coming out estimating that in the first full week of May next month, that they think the numbers will be down 44% over where they were the same week a year ago. The president, though, is touting some progress on the issue of tariffs so far. Obviously, he's going to have to get 90 deals done in 90 days, as the White House and the president's allies have insisted, which remains a unique challenge. But we did hear from the Treasury Secretary today speaking about South Korea, saying there was conversations with South Korea on an effort to come to some agreement about lowering tariffs that South Korea places on American products going there. So the president is insisting that the progress is being made right now. And the bottom line is that's the message that Republicans say he should be focusing on, is this idea of progress being made, and do everything in his power to avoid allowing Americans to believe there's a sense of confusion or uncertainty about exactly what the strategy here is.
You know, Peter, I'm curious, what is the White House saying about all of these polls that we are seeing? Our latest poll showing him underwater on his handling of the economy, which is his top issue, the reason why a lot of voters put him in the White House.
I think that's right. You make a good point there. Obviously, on the topic of border security, the White House is emphasizing how successful the president's been with historic lows on that issue. But obviously, on the topic of the economy, as you look on inflation, cost of living, 60% of Americans disapprove on that issue. That's from an NBC News Stay Tuned poll right now. It's not just NBC News. Fox News independently reporting close to 60% are saying they have issues with the president's handling of the economy and specifically on tariffs right now. That's where the president has tried to put a lot of the focus. He has been talking a lot about progress being made vis-a-vis China, obviously, with a 145% tariff now slapped on Chinese goods. The president yesterday told our colleague, Garrett Haake, that there are active talks taking place. They're talking actively, he said. But we heard within the same hour from the Treasury Secretary that none of those talks have started just yet. Last night, we heard from the National Economic Council head, Kevin Hassett, saying the conversations haven't begun. And China said today, through its foreign ministry, that it was fake news. Here's part of what the president insisted only a short time ago. Listen.
Clarify with whom the U.S. is speaking with China. They're saying it's fake news that trade talks are happening.
Well, they had a meeting this morning, so I can't tell you. It doesn't matter who they is. We may reveal it later, but they had meetings this morning, and we've been meeting with China.
So again, the president says they have been meeting with China. His advisors say those meetings have not begun in earnest yet. For their part, or for her part, Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, says there will be no unilateral lowering of tariffs on China. It will only come in the form of negotiations and in the eyes of the U.S. and the president. If China is to begin the process of backing down, Leavitt herself told us just yesterday here that Americans just need to be patient.
Yeah, and given all the volatility that we've seen in the markets, Peter, there's no doubt that all eyes are on China. Thanks so much for that breakdown. Really appreciate it. Good to see you, Ben. Let me turn to you. Let's start with our new NBC News Stay Tuned poll. Part of what we are seeing, 60% say they disapprove of President Trump's handling of inflation and the cost of living. As I was just discussing with Peter, this is his number one issue. This is one of the biggest reasons why he was elected. Ben, what are you seeing in these numbers? How significant?
I think they're very significant because ultimately you think about how Americans interact with the economy, right? It's rising prices. It's the price of eggs. It's the price of gas. It's so easy to have that be kind of the first line of defense. And to your point, one of the big arguments that Donald Trump made, then candidate Trump, made against Joe Biden was on the issue of prices, and it's a very tangible return. And so I think it's not super surprising to see these numbers because it's very clear what you're seeing in both in the broader economic sphere, but also just in what the price of goods and groceries look like when you go to the store.
Well, when you think about the price of goods, you think about how much everyone has in their pockets. And take a look at this compared to a year ago. How is your personal financial situation? That was the question we asked in our poll. 44% say about the same. 34%, Ben, say worse today. 22% say better today. What do you make of that aspect? It only reinforces these concerns about the economy. And I think the pressure on President Trump, on administration officials to, in fact, be able to strike deals.
The longer you're in office and the more you take risks with your economic strategy, certainly the president and his team argue that long term, this is going to be better for America. That remains to be seen. It could very well be true. But in the short term, if the voters aren't seeing a tangible return, they're going to, you're going to pay for it. The question is, can they land these deals? Can they land the plane in this sort of medium to long term? And ultimately this all goes away? Maybe, but in the short term, it's hurting people, right? People are hurting, and they're telling us that in the polls.
Yeah, and it's just such a fundamental issue, I think, for so many people. There's also the big picture, his overall approval rating. For that, we turn to some other polls, including the Fox News poll, which certainly got President Trump's attention. He tried to discredit this poll. 44% his job approval rating. That's down from the last time he was asked. 40% according to Pew. So underwater, certainly, and down from where he was when he was inaugurated. Down, quite frankly, from where his counterparts were. Yeah, no, I think, we used to elect presidents and it used to have this long, graceful honeymoon period. We don't really have that anymore. But I think it's kind of a double-edged sword with Trump. He has a high floor because the Republican Party is so coalesced around him that, he's going to be more sticky in these numbers. We're not going to see a dramatic drop, unless something crazy happens. But we're also, there's a ceiling to be had here because ultimately, I think the first couple months of this administration have been so geared toward a sort of the
policies that really endear himself to the right flank, to the Republican Party. The question now is, can he make this pivot in the economy? Obviously, it's an issue that touches everyone. Can he make this pivot and bring more people into the fold when these early actions have been largely based on rewarding the base?
I think that is the key question. I want to also look at his marks on border security. That's another one of his biggest issue. He is getting high marks on his handling of the border. Let's take a look at those figures. You can see there, Ben, higher on border security, certainly than the economy, where it's negative 18. Border security is the one issue where he is doing well. So if you want to know why he is happy to talk about these various fights he's having with the courts over deporting people, that's why he's winning on this issue.
I like to think of what he told one of my close personal colleagues, Kristen Welker, in December, right? I won on prices. Yeah. I won on the border. That's what he told you. And I really try to look at his presidency through that lens. And this economic number, I mean, the economy used to be his strength, right? So to see it falling like this is really interesting. And what I think this poll does really well, this Fox News one that we just showed on the screen, it splits up border security and immigration. They have this story to tell on the border that has been working broadly, right? The number of apprehensions at the border have gone down. They've been able to tell that story in a way that seems to be resonating with people. But this immigration thing is harder because I spoke to a voter in Arizona just briefly. It's really stuck with me. He said that he's totally in ideological lockstep with the president, but he wonders why he's taking kind of like the hardest approach possible, the one that sort of causes the most pain and anguish and controversy. Like, there is a story to be told here for them, but they're seeking controversy. And you see that with a lot of the immigration, with the headlines in the news, what we're seeing. And ultimately, I think that that's something that is going to be a question of whether or not he can sort of expand that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And having that first-person account is just so informative. Ben, thank you so much for being here, breaking down all the numbers for us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.